Let's move on to the United Nations General Assembly, where Nigeria's Vice President Kashim Shettima has called on world leaders to recommit themselves to multilateralism by deepening relations among member states in line with the principles of inclusivity, equality, and cooperation. The Vice President was delivering President Bola Tinubu's address to the Assembly. Our State House correspondent Larry Lasisi was there and now reports.
World leaders gather for the opening ceremony of the general debate of the 79th session of the United Nations General Assembly in New York, United States. Starting off the speeches, the Secretary General of the United Nations warned nations to draw back from the impunity, inequality, and uncertainty which is creating an unsustainable world.
Let's move our world towards less impunity and more accountability, less inequality and more justice, less uncertainty and more opportunity. The people of the world are looking to us, and succeeding generations will look back on us. Let them find us on the side of the United Nations Charter, on the side of our shared values and principles, and on the right side of history.
Appearing for the final time, the President of the United States stressed his optimism that world leaders can succeed in charting a new future despite the present grim outlook.
I know there is a way forward. In 1919, the Irish poet William Butler Yeats described a world, and I quote, "where things fall apart, the center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world," end of quote. Some may say those words describe the world not just in 1919, but in 2024. Well, I see a critical distinction.
Representing President Bola Tinubu at the event, Vice President Kashim Shettima delivered Nigeria's message to the leaders gathered. He noted that it is clear that more needs to be done to reverse the realities facing the world today.
Today, these pillars of our organization are threatened. They risk being broken by the relentless pursuit of individual national priorities rather than the collective needs of the nations that are assembled here today. While commitment to multilateralism offers us the surest guarantee of global action to address the existential challenges we face, singularity and nationalism are undermining the aspirations towards a peaceful and collective resolution of such challenges.
He also called for a collaboration that revives confidence in democratic rule and international cooperation.
The continued manifestations of these challenges testifies to our failings rather than to any lofty achievements on our part. Billions of dollars are being committed to the prosecution of wars and the planning of the embers of conflict. Yet, we always recoil from bringing out the resources we need to build peace and to deliver life's necessities to people. The question of governance is at the heart of our problems and also the solution to them.
The Vice President also restated the call for a permanent seat for Africa on the UN Security Council and also asked for debt forgiveness for developing countries. The general debate is to continue on Wednesday. From New York, Larry Lasisi, Channels Television News.
Yesterday, we saw the Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky address leaders at the assembly, telling them the war between Russia and Ukraine cannot be calmed by talks alone, but that Moscow must be forced into peace. Polish President Andrzej Duda, speaking on the side of Ukraine, also urged Russia to end its war in Ukraine and is urging peace in the Middle East. President Duda, in his address, says the United Nations cannot allow the war to turn into another frozen conflict, adding that it destabilizes the region and poses a direct threat to the global order and security.
Poland, today we are facing yet again an extremely serious threat to global security. For the past 2.5 years, we have seen Russia's brutal aggression against neighboring Ukraine. This is a flagrant violation of fundamental norms of international law, such as the prohibition of the use of force in international relations. This unprovoked aggression is destabilizing the region and posing a direct threat to the global order and security. We cannot allow this war to turn into another frozen conflict. This is the most important task for the future. That is why it's so important today to stop the Russian war in Ukraine, not only to end the suffering of the people and punish the aggressor, but also to prevent such heinous actions from becoming a model for others to follow. Ukraine's territorial integrity must be restored within its internationally recognized borders. The logic of conquest and disregard for international law must be stopped unless we agree to live in a world where any country can become a victim of aggression regardless of its size and geographic location. Poland is following with equal concern the situation in the Middle East, where due to the brutal Hamas attacks of October the 7th, 2023, the conflict has escalated. Israel, like any other state, has the right to self-defense. However, these actions must follow international humanitarian law. Poland has consistently supported a two-state solution to the Middle East conflict that will guarantee both Palestinians and Israelis the right to live in peace and security in correct relations with all the neighbors.
You're watching The World Today. We're due for a break, but when we come back, Tropical Storm Helen strengthens in the Caribbean as it prepares to make landfall in Mexico and Florida. We're back in just a moment with details. Please stay with us. Many thanks indeed for staying with us. We're winding down on the program. Let's come to Nigeria now, where the US CDC, in conjunction with the Nigeria Center for Disease Control and Prevention, has convened a media roundtable here in Lagos to communicate the scope and impact of their collaborative work in the public health space. Since 2003, the US CDC has been a partner of the federal and state ministries of health here in Nigeria to improve health outcomes. Our correspondent Miri Alale Yusuf reports.
Gracing the occasion today and the kind words.
Seated here, serving as hosts for this media roundtable, are members of the U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, US CDC, and their Nigerian counterparts. Members of the press are the guests of the health bodies who are seeking to highlight the CDC's collaboration for public health emergency management, FEM, in the country.
The U.S. government has contributed over $2 million United States dollars to the FEM program in Nigeria. It's also important to mention that a senior U.S. CDC epidemiologist supports FEM operations, outbreak response, and public health EOC coordination at national and state levels.
The occasion doubles as the graduation of 55 public health officials from the combined third and fourth cohorts of the Nigeria FEM Intermediate Program.
Since 2017, we've trained about 200 public health staff who have graduated from the FEM basic course, giving them the requisite capacity, to serve and perform watch functions in the EOCs.
In addition to responding to disease outbreaks, public health personnel have the responsibility to prevent disease stemming from natural disasters such as flood, bringing into sharp relief NIMET's prediction of a second peak of rainfall in the southwest before year's end.
It's about systems. We have to put systems in place. We have early warning systems that we've developed for emergencies. They're already in place in the camps in Borno. Those are the things that we're trying to set up in the Southwest as well, so that they can provide data that show us whether we are at the brink of an outbreak or not. But what I was saying earlier is that these systems are not perfect, and that's what we're trying to strengthen. We have our nation that has limited resources, and so we need to direct those resources where we're having the most morbidity and mortality.
The US CDC pledges to support Nigeria to strengthen its core capacities of surveillance, workforce development, and emergency preparedness as she faces off multiple disease outbreaks. Mary Alale Yusuf, Channels Television News.
And a quick check on the weather now. Tropical Storm Helen is strengthening in the Caribbean as it prepares to make landfall in Mexico and the U.S. state of Florida. According to the U.S.-based National Hurricane Center's, Storm Helen was expected to pass Mexico's Yucatan Peninsula and hit Florida late on Thursday. Meteorologists are also warning Helen could turn into a Category 3 hurricane. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has now declared a state of emergency for almost all of the state counties, and authorities in Mexico also issued red alert warning for residents. Testimony continued on Tuesday, September 24, in the U.S. Coast Guard's hearings into the undersea implosion of the Titan submersible in June 2023, which 5 people were killed, with an expert saying there were numerous red flags when he rode on Titan 4 years ago, including a loud noise. Carl Stanley, a friend of Stockton Rush, the founder of OceanGate, which operated Titan, told the hearing that the way Titan was towed out also indicated Rush's lack of faith in that vessel. Titan imploded while diving to the wreck of the Titanic, which sits on the ocean floor about 3,800 meters below the surface. The 5 who died included Rush, who was piloting the craft. OceanGate charged $250,000 per person to make the Titanic trip. The U.S. Coast Guard Marine Board of Investigation has been hearing testimonies from expert witnesses and OceanGate employees since September 16, and it's set to wrap up at the end of the week.
So if you would continue. Now, you were just speaking about the sonar tech and those test dives. So continue, please.
So there were 4 of us in there, and in retrospect, there were a lot of red flags that now, after the implosion and learning more and putting different pieces of the puzzle together, start making sense and are kind of clues. It made a lot of noise, and when we got down there, and another clue in retrospect is we didn't tow out. It's a fairly gentle sloping bottom. We had to go much farther offshore than I would need to go that deep off of Roatan. I mean, we were probably 10 or 12 miles offshore, and he chose to stop the towing a little shallow. We could have easily gone a little deeper, and that would have been a better test, but I think that was an indication of his lack of faith in that vessel.
I had the privilege of knowing the explorers whose lives were lost. Stockton, PH, Shazada, Suleiman, and Hamish. And there's not a day that passes that I don't think of them, their families, and the loss. It's been a difficult year for them and for all of us. I would also like to thank the board for the work they've done and continue to do in this investigation, and I hope my testimony has been of some help to you.
And we end the program with a military drill. About 250 British and Croatian soldiers in Ganici earlier today. The exercises consisted of artillery firing and position takeovers. The British ambassador to Croatia, Simon Thomas, says the exercise was important for strengthening NATO, with soldiers exercising together, training together, and spending time together. Croatia and the United Kingdom are both members of NATO.
Defence and security is one of the most important areas of collaboration between the UK and Croatia. We live in uncertain times. Russia's again brought war to our continent. Ukraine's only 600 kilometres away from where we're standing here in Gashinsea. Our two governments are working hard together, not only to support Ukraine, but also to reinforce our own military capabilities and to reinforce our NATO alliance. And what we're doing here in Gashinsea today is an important part of that. It's having British and Croatian troops side by side, exercising together, training together, spending time together, and we've seen the good effects of that today. We've seen British troops getting out of Croatian vehicles. We've seen how well they can fight side by side, and talking to the British commanders, talking to the Croatian commanders about what they're getting out of this training. It's a real sign of success and the strength of our NATO alliance and the strength of our bilateral partnership.
And military drills are essential, but we can only hope and pray for peace here in Nigeria and all around the world. And that does it for us here on the program. Thanks indeed for watching. On behalf of the production team and everyone here, I'm Kelly Egiga. Bye now.